In the summer of 1969, in an unincorporated part of Pierce County called Five Heights, near Tacoma, Washington, two young men, Dick Hancock and Gary Johnson, both just out of high school, were walking late at night along the hilly drive as it overlooked the city of Tacoma and the industrial tide flats. This area was a semi-rural with a mix of forest, small and large homes that had breathtaking views of the city and surrounding territorial woods. Dick and Gary saw something large, tall, hairy, and on two legs coming their way, moving swiftly across the road in front of them, headed to the steep slope and bluff and water below. As it crossed, it reached for a road sign, signaling a sharp turn ahead, and bent the sign at a very severe angle. As they stood there, frightened and amazed, this huge creature moved down the hill and out of sight. This sighting created a sensation in the national news and was then known as the Five Heights Incident. And this is known as chasing ghosts on scooters in bars.
This is Ron Olson. Ron's from Springfield, Oregon, and he heads up expeditions looking for the Bigfoot. Ron, tell me, just what is a Bigfoot?
Excuse me a minute. Frank, hold that thing up a minute. Bigfoot, or Sasquatch as he's called in Canada, is a giant, hair-covered, human-like creature that's been reported more and more throughout the mountains of the northwestern United States and Canada.
How big do they run?
Many sightings have revealed this creature to be between 7 to 9 feet tall and 600 to 900 pounds.
Well, now, let's hear the words of some people who have had some first-hand experiences with Bigfoot.
That Bigfoot description was from American National Enterprise's 1972 cult film, Bigfoot, Man or Beast.
Can I just add a couple things here?
I know you're going to.
Well, you made us all watch it. That was our homework. And so I watched it. Three thoughts came to mind. One, a bad third grade film strip being forced to watch again. The Adventures of Grizzly Adams.
Right, I'll come
and
on.
then McGruff the crime dog, when the dude comes out in his white trench coat.
I like that guy.
He was a nice guy, but they had some issues going on there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you all watched it. What do you think, Keith?
I love the tracked vehicle. That was my favorite part.
That was pretty cool. They brought it off the truck?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the guys trying to start a chainsaw 20 feet behind the interview.
Right. And
he had no idea, apparently. Yeah.
I just wondered if Dick and Gary were really into Big and Hairy.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear from them now.
That's the next episode.
Thank you very much.
I have to say, though, the bend of the sign was less than dramatic.
Well, if you realized it took 500 foot-pounds to make the sign bend as it did, and it was up over 8 feet, it's pretty impressive.
And Keith, if you were really paying attention, you would have seen the scratch marks on the back of the sign.
There were scratch marks.
I think were the back or the front?
This is less than a quarter of a mile from where we're recording this podcast right now.
Absolutely. I grew up even closer than you did to it.
It just goes to show you what.
I'm not sure you're even born yet. This is Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars, the podcast that blends the modern scooter lifestyle with a twist of the paranormal over a cool cocktail. Take it, Mark.
This independent podcast follows a group of modern-day Vespa riders in search of classic pubs, dive bars, and haunted taverns. This is not smart or safe, but it's really fun. As a disclaimer, we never encourage drinking and scooting and keep our intake to 1 per hour-ish.
Sort of, right in that.
That's our framework.
Yeah, so this is episode 25. It's kind of a hallmark, threshold, benchmark.
Silver anniversary?
It's really 26 because of Jeff Carlson's bonus app.
Are we going to do this 1+ every freaking time we do this?
Well, I think so, because I'm just trying to stay ahead of the game. We are so late that the downloads are just dribbling in.
You've done that before, too.
Yeah. This is a squatchy one, and it's called Hairy Riders. So we are chasing Bigfoot today. And we have a full crew in the garage.
One of the rare times.
Yeah, Scout, you're back from the 4th on Camino. How'd that go?
Good. Very good. Ready to leave.
Yeah?
Yep. Time with the family. It's good to go.
Was that your phone making noise?
Yep, that was my wife chiming in. She heard Camino Island. Her ears perked right up.
And then Lizard down from Three Tree Point. What's been going on with you? What's new? I heard there is a little bit of wetness in your life.
Well,
Just behind the ears.
There was wetness, but it only happened when I fell out of my rowboat into the water.
Tell us a story. How can that happen for an old sea legs guy like you?
No, I was just getting in my rowboat to head to row out to get to my boat, and as I stepped into the rowboat, a wave caught it and like a skateboard put me on my back, and now my cell phone is in a bag of rice as we speak.
Well, let's not be racist. And Pendominono, what's been going on with you, Keith?
You said it correctly. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've been practicing.
Just excited to be here. Looking forward to the ride. That's it.
Yeah, we are going to be taking off soon.
And I just want to say, hopefully, a few of my words end up in the podcast, actually.
You have been found on the cutting room floor, and you've been bitter about it for years.
We're really going to fight for you, Keith.
I'm a little bitter.
Yeah, so you can tell now why he was on the cutting room floor. I do have a question for you. The Pendominono moniker, is that your grinder handle?
No, I don't know what grinder is.
Okay, good.
He knows what Tinder is, not grinding.
Swipe left.
And Bobby Chong, there's something new in your life.
What's that?
It's your new bike. Tell us about it. But seems like every podcast you're in, you have a new bike.
Oh, that's right. We talked about the Royal Enfield, didn't we? Well, I got a new 300S Sport S, whatever, Vespa. It's matte blue, and it has the new HPE engine in it, which is significantly better than all yours.
Yeah, high performance engine.
I'll debate that, Bobby. I'll debate that.
Well,
Keith's
not
got
yours.
the
Not Keith
350
has.
Primavera. What do you have? Piaggio BV 350?
It's a Beverly.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
We went
Keith's,
from the Grand Dink to the Beverly.
you stepped out on us.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's me, the new Catholic. I have a new picture, too. If you take a look over on the wall, you'll see the Pope and a Vespa as part of my new Catholic religion.
I can feel it.
It is Sunday morning.
I'm not a Buddhist. I'm not a Buddhist.
Hindu.
All right, let's move on.
That was Ravi Shankar.
This is Jessica at the Swiss in Tacoma, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
All right, here's where I make a very quick appeal to follow us on Facebook at Chasing Ghost Pod, where we post all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff about the paranormal, great scooter shots, vintage and new, bar visits, little videos, and of course, we have a stunning presence on Instagram and less than impressive Twitter account. Go to one of those, follow us if you would, or follow us on all. You won't regret it, I promise. Mark,
What happened to the
what do
Twitter
you follow?
account?
Well, Twitter...
Too young?
No, the problem with the Twitter account for me is all I do is when I load onto Instagram, it loads into Facebook and Twitter when I do one of those. But on Twitter, it doesn't pull the picture. You got to click on a link to see the picture.
That's bullshit.
I
So the
know.
extra effort is killing the...
I post an original one. I retweet here and there. I really like the Vespa and Lambretta pics. Those guys do some really good stuff. And we all like some of the pictures you see in the mornings that I don't share. We also need your ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, and on Himalaya, the new podcast app that's taking the world by storm. If you haven't downloaded it, it's free. Please do. It's very intuitive, and it grabs different podcasts and groups them together. So if you're listening to one genre, it'll suggest new ones. Very easy to use. And there's a little button you can press if you feel like donating to
How's
to
that
your
fun
favorite.
coming along? Anyway?
Not very good. I mean, nobody knows we're on Himalaya, so we're not getting a lot of listens. I think all of them have been.
How are we rated in the podcast world?
Well, we are the number one scooter podcast in the world that features ghosts and bars.
So we're staying strong in that. Well,
Yeah, we are number one.
Okay.
And really what's exciting is Pandora picked us up and has put us on the Pandora new podcast playing.
Well,
list.
look at us.
And it's already taken off for us. So that one's really working. Himalaya is a little weak for us at the moment, but that's because people don't know about it. It's so new. So grab it. It's good, and I think I'm using it because it's easier to use than the Apple Podcast that we've been using, though. Apple Podcast is the big animal. That's where most of them come from.
So if I'm a listener, which do you prefer me to listen to? Do you have a preference?
Do you listen to it? Don't you say I
Yeah, but I go to my
was
podcast because you say it's on the podcast.
Right. Well, you can listen to it there or on Himalaya or on a whole
I don't know where
Overcast.
those
Any
are.
number of podcast apps
I'll probably
you
just
can
stick
listen
with the
to.
venue I've got. Otherwise,
The one you understand?
It's the only podcast I listen to.
Is this one?
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, I'm committed.
Yeah.
I'm loyal.
You should listen to, there's some good basketball ones and tennis.
That would only expose how shitty I am.
All right. So the Pandora downloads are already outpacing our Alexa app that we have. You know how we have an Alexa skill that's
Yes, I
unique
do.
to our podcast? And we were one of the first ones out there with that. And it's already doing more downloads than that is. So Alexa, I'm sorry, you're not doing it for us. So listen to us on Alexa and then switch over to Himalaya, give us some money, and then when you're driving, listen to us on Pandora. That'll be like 3 downloads right there. Thanks for listening to all that.
Boy, the New Catholic has just not stopped your promotion.
I
has it?
am all over it. And then also a quick thank you to the Red Star Taco Bar in Tacoma. Abby and Megan, and I think even Jen, immediately understood our quest and provided inspiration with the arrival of delicious shots.
Yeah, she was very nice. They were all nice.
Have you been there? Well, yes, you have. Great tacos and tequila just across the street from our friend Jason at Andy Amo Let's Go Scooter Repair. He does both vintage and modern. They provide what is needed here in Tacoma, a quality and very cool scooter repair center.
Jason's the man.
He is the man. He knows how to do it all. Also, a quick shout out to Tom McNeese. Remember him?
Yes, that's right.
We met him while we were on a ride last week.
A friend of a friend.
At Loretta's Norwesterner in South Park in Seattle. And he sent us a round of drinks, and it turns out knows people here on Five Heights, which, is the home of the Five Heights incident.
Circa 1972.
That's right. No, it was actually 1969.
Oh, Keith,
The
were you
movie.
born that year?
The movie was made 1972 where they featured it. Keith and Ike, or Mike, one of our occasional riders with us, he's not going to make it this year on the big ride. We attended the Grit City podcast-sponsored Boot to Boot pub crawl, where the idea was to head from the Kickin' Boots Cafe out on 38th and
I believe that's the Flying Boot.
Flying Boot on 38th and Fawcett.
Which is a really good. We were
is.
there, Scout. That's a
Great.
good bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Great bar.
Nice.
They have
It's
nice
a dive,
breakfast, too.
Nice dive bar, yeah. So we started there, and then everybody rode everything. There were electric bikes, there were Lime scooters, there were our gas scooters.
Did everyone have a helmet?
No,
Oh.
not everybody had a helmet. But the idea was to start at the Flying Boot, and then have a drink there, and then we went to the Camp Bar, which is on Tacoma Avenue, one of our favorite places. Had a drink there, and I think we split a burger, had a burger. And then on this whole group went to the Hub, which is up on Tacoma Avenue, 6th Division,
Close.
somewhere up there.
Right above St. Helens.
Right above St. Helens. Thank you. And then they finished up at the Rhine House, which was
House! As Hitler would say. He was a very passionate speaker.
where they served their beer in a boot. Therefore, it's called Boot to Boot. And it was a pub crawl. It was a very fun group. And there on that particular one, we knew some of the guys
Sounds
from
like
the
a fun
podcast.
trip.
We met Rusty, who's a big, bearded, funny, and friendly guy. And check out, what's this podcast about? And there's a picture of him, he and I, and on our Facebook and an Instagram account and a little bit on Twitter if you click a link. And he's one of the owners of the Church Cantina, which we mentioned in our last podcast and had a scary story about. But more importantly, they have great Cuban Mexican fusion food in a haunted Gothic environment building. So anyway, he sat down with an interview with us, and we're going to be sharing that on our next podcast along with our Haunted Seattle cruise, where we went to the Merchants Cafe, Kel's Irish Pub, all known to be haunted.
Are you doing a tease right there?
I'm doing a little tease.
Nice.
Yeah, it's coming up. Thank you for not screaming out Rhinehouse as I said that. Don't do it. Don't.
Just Tourette's. I'm over it.
So we'll have another one following this particular podcast about that ride, which was chock full of interesting things.
This is Megan at Red Star Taco Bar in Tacoma, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars.
So can we sidetrack for just a half second here and figure out what we're doing?
Less about me.
Yeah, just about since we're all here, talk about our Inland Empire scoot.
We have a big ride coming up.
It's going to be a big one.
It is. It's actually a 5-day ordeal, is it not? Maybe 6
Well, it will
if we
be an
come
ordeal.
home.
And 7 states.
Right. Actually, 3 states, I believe, are going to Washington. Well, we're in Washington.
That's a good start.
And then to Idaho, and then Montana, right? We go to Libby, Montana. Or do we swing through
Not
Libby?
Libby.
Troy.
Troy, Montana.
Close enough. But is that 5 days and 50 bars?
Well, I think there's some travel time in there. I'm gonna say let's not go to the bars with our scooters on trailers.
That's a new Catholic thing there, because I've never heard that come out of your mouth before.
I think we need to bring spare gas.
You gave me a new fuel tank.
I did.
That's pretty cool. Bob gave me this small handheld fuel tank. So if you run out of gas, it has about a pint and a half.
Yeah,
maybe.
but why did you put whiskey in it? That's what I want to know.
I like the way the spout works. You just pour this whole thing, and my scooter will run on whiskey. The alcohol will combust. Will it not?
Oh, I'm sure alcohol will combust.
It'll fire.
It's just a very expensive fuel. So we're going to head over to Spokane on July 17th and leave about noon from the Tacoma area. We'll be there at about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the Spokane area. We're going to be staying downtown, and this is where we get our first group of bars because, well, not the first, because no doubt somewhere along the way we'll have one quickie. But ouch! But we're going to be downtown Spokane on Wednesday night, the 17th of July, and looking to get a good base of bars under our belt so that we can not feel so pressured on the last day.
We do need to get our feet under us just a little bit.
So we'll be near the Davenport Hotel.
We need to make a vote. I want to leave before noon.
I'm with Bob.
Okay, 11:45?
No, I'm thinking more like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
That'll give us some extra time.
It's going to be more than a straight trip there.
Yeah,
Let's be
you're not
realistic.
going to get there in 4 or 5 hours if you stop anywhere along the way.
I would tend to agree, except I think we ought to get to Spokane before we.
Oh, the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I do have a question.
I go back
I do
to-
have a question though. I need to theme my helmet. Is there a title for this year's trip yet?
Yes.
The Inland Empire Ride.
The Inland Empire Ride. Okay.
Or let's just call it Empire.
What about Dark
Wait, that's a T.
Treasures of the Inland Empire?
Is that where is this where you're going this year?
That's the return trip.
Dark Treasures of the Inland Empire.
The Inland Empire covers the northeast of Washington, northern Idaho, and I think also northwestern Montana. So I think we're covered.
Oh, good, good. Do I need to cut the Hayden Lake comment? I just saw a grimace from you.
That was gas.
He just
I think I was actually hoping to meet Mark Furman. I don't think he would like that.
he does radio over there, so maybe we could.
Well, as far as the trip over, I keep thinking in my head, know thyself. We're making some stops.
Well, Keith isn't comfortable with that
He
pen
can wait in the car. We'll crack a
Keith's
window.
not driving, so
Well,
it doesn't matter.
wait. Where did Lonnie order some Diet Coke? Couldn't you do that too, Keith?
That was
Fucking
episode.
I don't know what you're talking about,
Mean
Bob.
Gene
There
better
is a
not be
precedent.
determined.
You're correct. There is a precedent.
You better hope Mean Gene isn't working at that bar.
She's coming with us.
On the grill?
She's going to be like grandma in vacation. We'll end up tying her on the roof.
Rusty!
All right. Though, with you Spokane on Wednesday, we're going to be doing a big ride on Thursday, and then all the way down, I think, into near Pullman, and then back up to Coeur d'Alene, where we'll spend the night Thursday night in Coeur d'Alene. Try to find us, direct or send us a message,
Bob, help him here.
and From what?
We're not going to Pullman. We canceled that when we were doing the route.
I don't think so. And the menu's right in front of you of where we're going. We have nowhere else to go on that day.
And now the audience has seen the real two brothers go at it.
I got nowhere else to go.
So then on day 3, we head north to Sandpoint, Bonner's Ferry, up in the north end, and we're going to stay up there. We have an old haunted hotel that we're sleeping in. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then we head over to Wallace, Idaho.
Ah, Wallace.
Home of some of the Bordello Museum. I don't think there's any Bordellos
What is that?
left. I don't know. It's a dark treasure. And then we finish up the final night at, does anybody remember?
Pullman.
Troy or Libby or something, right?
Is that our last night in Troy?
No. You've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it all messed up. Seriously, I'm not even.
We're gonna have to go back.
Wait till I start drinking. So anyway, we will be over there for several days, tearing it up.
I think that's what we know. We know when we'll be there and roughly that area.
And when we're going to come
go
home.
back to the map.
And if you go on the Himalaya app where you can donate money, it may be bail money.
This is Charlotte at the Flying Boots and Wings in the Spur Room in Tacoma, Washington. And you are listening to Chasing Ghosts on Scooters in Bars. Thank you.
Hey, what time is it?
It's time for Scooter News. Oh, God, that's getting old, isn't it? But
the news never gets old.
Well, this one is about tainted love.
What?
Yeah. This is actually something that we did post, but I got a comment from Lonnie that said, oh, that's our Scooter News for sure. Is that not correct?
Yes, it is.
And this is as reported by Gizmodo. But here I'll just
Gizmodo?
Yeah, it's a news site.
Giz or jizz?
So a man's fall, and they say a moped. It's not a moped, it's a scooter. A man's fall from a moped caused him much stranger trouble than anyone could have imagined. According to his doctors, a bruise near his genitals left him with a days-long erection, one that eventually required a trip to the emergency room to treat. Thankfully, doctors were able to resolve his awkward complication, and the patient had no lasting damage. So what's more important here is that it was described by the UK doctors that treated him in a case study. And according to the report, this 35-year-old man had fallen off his scooter 9 days before his visit to the ER. At first, he only seemed to have bruised his perineum, the area between his genitals and anus. That's perineum. There's no D in there.
Perineum.
Yeah. So
anyway,
let's just call it his taint.
All right.
Because it taint.
Oh, now I know.
Okay. Before long, though, the man developed an erection that lasted far, far more than 4 hours. While the erection itself wasn't painful, when are they? There are no other symptoms. He did have to deal with mild discomfort on walking, but apparently his partner was very happy.
Well, what was his name?
Yeah, once at the ER, he was classified as having a grade 4 erection, the highest tally on the erection hardness score.
I did not know there was one.
I did not either.
I've only gotten to 2 myself.
Which, by the way, is a real thing, and there's a hyperlink here where we can click on it, and then, well, I'm not sure what we do then. But even among cases of unwanted stiffness, the man's situation was unusual.
Damn it. I crashed on my scooter once, and I never had that silver lining.
I got scraped.
All right, so they went in and they treated him in a way that he chose. They could either let it just go away. They said, you probably will be fine. But they treated him and where they did a blockage and cut down what they were calling a low flow medical emergency. Anyway, soon after the man's condition improved, though it took a while for him to fully recover the use of his penis, they checked him a year later and he reported having completely normal erectile function.
Well, happy ending.
It's a happy
Another happy ending
for a scooter rider, right? So it's just one little thing that we wanted to add to our scooter news because
that's some hard-hitting news.
It's happy scooter news.
Yes.
Happy time. I mean, no discomfort.
A win-win for everyone.
It's like 9 days of, well, I guess we'll just go with it. Then what follows scooter news, guys?
That would be
Spooky news. That's right.
That's the scary stuff.
Well, we're in the Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Squatchy storytelling right now. So here's the thing. The FBI released 22 pages from its Bigfoot files.
Just date back to J. Edgar?
No, this is from FeedSpot and Disclosed TV, but it's all over the internet. And it's not all over the internet because of what's in the files, though it's interesting. What it is that the government always denies, and then when they declassify things, they're finding out, oh no, they've really been involved, and they've done things that they say they never have. In this case, they tested hair samples and skin samples of someone who said they got it from a possible Bigfoot sighting. Or not a sighting, an actual interaction where they got it, picked it off a tree, probably a pear bush, something like that.
Not a prior patch?
Were there any semen samples involved?
No taint.
Of the Bigfoot?
There was no taint issues.
All right, so here's what they say. Legends of large ape-like beasts can be found all over the world. Since the 1950s, the United States version of this has been called the Bigfoot, and since 1976, the FBI has had a file on him. That year, Director Peter Byrne of the Bigfoot Information Center and Exhibition in the Dalles, Oregon, not far from us, not far from our friends at Vespa, Portland.
Where your wife grew up, right?
No, she grew up in Dallas, which is
the Dalles.
west of
Dallas is way
Salem,
south of
Oregon,
here.
which is the capital of Oregon. Anyway, the Dalles is actually the other way. It's heading east.
It's on the gorge.
Sent the FBI about 15 hairs attached to a tiny piece of skin. Byrne wrote that his organization couldn't identify what kind of animal it came
So they got
from.
up close for that piece of skin.
Or the tiny piece of skin.
Here's the setup here.
And was hoping the FBI might analyze it. He also wanted to know if the FBI had analyzed suspected Bigfoot hair before, and if so, what their conclusion was.
And?
Well, okay, I'm not going to get into the 22 pages I have printed sitting here on this table. Do you
Thank
see
you.
them?
Thank you.
Here's the upshot. According to the government, they think it was deer hair.
Oh.
Or fur or hair.
Because those have actually been spotted.
However,
in the
Director Peter Byrne, now in his 90s, said he never received that report back to him, but this is what came out in the declassified information. And they're saying, yeah, we did send it. And he's saying, no, you didn't. So now what do we have?
A lawsuit.
A conspiracy.
Oh, that too.
So what's important, though, is that the government is investigating these UFOs and other paranormal phenomena, and that's the big takeaway from this. It's big. It's huge. You know, just last year.
Are you talking about Bigfoot's
Just last
skin?
year, last December, they came out and the government released UFO videos. So they're building us up. They're letting us know that all this is coming together. And mark my words, gentlemen, you naysaying skeptics, we will know more soon.
You think they'll contact us?
I'm surprised there's not guys in white suits right now walking into the garage. I mean, the studio.
That would be Men in Black, and they'd be in black suits. So there you go. That's your scooter and spooky news for Harry Riders, the podcast.
This is Amber at the Quarter Mile in Yelm, Washington, and you're listening to Chasing Ghosts on scooters in bars. Now back to the show.
Okay, well, here's the point where we talk about our rides and bars that we've been taking. But there's something we need to talk about before we go any further.
Are you feeling a little uneasy?
Uneasy, but I think there's somebody here that needs to say something to me.
Oh. So some family strife needs to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're going south. Somebody grabbed my map and marked it up.
So say you're sorry, bitch.
Well, I don't know if I can say that.
Okay, Inga.
But I will say I'm wrong. I will say that we are going south.
Right. So when we talked about, no, we're not going south on our big ride. Yes, we are. We'll be heading south toward Pullman. We're going to be hitting bars on day 2, all the way down there, I believe.
Like I said, someone stole my map and marked it up.
So there you go.
Looks like the new Catholic can get over things quickly.
Yeah, I'm fine.
know what?
I'm fine.
Really?
As a new Catholic, you should just let that go.
I have, because forgiveness is not about the person being forgiven. It's about the person who does it so that they don't take rent up in your head.
I'm so happy for you,
So
Mark.
you just forgive your asshole big brother and all is good.
According to hurt,
older
only hurts
brother.
the order.
Okay, so Bobby's left us because he walked out in shame, as he should have. But let's talk about some really good rides we've taken lately. One of which, we toured the Merchants Cafe after leaving Loretta's Northwesterner. Remember, we met the guy that bought us a round of drinks. We said thank you to him earlier in the podcast. We ended up at the Merchants, and
great bar,
notoriously
classic.
haunted.
Yeah,
they say the oldest continually running bar
restaurant in Seattle.
In Seattle, that's right. And though I had to say, what about Jules Mays down in Georgetown? They claim the same thing, and they go, "Oh, they're
Not
just
even
kids.
close, yeah.
They're kids." I've heard that about the Merchants. I've heard it about the Central. The J&M is right in there. But, man, this place is haunted. We had 2 bartenders working. Both of them had experiences, so they're going to tell it on our next podcast. And then we went to Kel's Irish Pub at the market in the alley there, Post Alley.
And you set up a nice interview with the owner.
Yeah, Karen, one of the owners, her and her mom, and got just some great stories from her and from them, and that'll be on our next podcast. In the meantime...
So there is another podcast coming. This is not the last one.
Every one, I think, is going to be the last one because it's like giving birth. I'll never have another child.
And there you go again, you dirty whore.
Okay, we played hooky last week, and we made a day-long scooter run, right?
Yeah.
Kind of through the
like
old vintage ride.
It's our old go-to.
South to Centralia from Tacoma and back in one day to visit some of our favorite haunts. One of which, our first stop, was the Roy Tavern in Roy, Washington. What do we think about that place? It's kind of a lean-to, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It gives me that feeling of a lean-to.
Yeah, it's like family.
Yeah.
And it's about a 30-minute ride, so it's a good time to stop.
Yeah.
Thirsty
It's
at that
33 minutes. And they say, well, we're not sure it's haunted. We've had some weird things happen. But more importantly, it's generally our first stop while headed south. And they're always nice. They're always open. And there's a little fireplace on cold days that's burning. And what did you have?
Well, I call it a wood stove.
Right. What did you guys have? I think I had a vodka soda.
Ditto. Yeah.
Maybe a White Claw.
I think you had a screwdriver.
Huh? Could be.
How about you, Keith? Do you remember? Oh, you didn't go on that ride.
He was working that day. Yeah.
Right. You can still talk. You've been to that bar. And from there, we headed down to Waltz in McKenna. Now, we did a story on Waltz about a year and a half ago.
A couple years ago, yeah.
And Waltz is haunted. They've seen things on their cameras at night from the office, things moving across, shadows moving.
And this is where you had the White Claw.
I had a White Claw there. Yeah. Hashtag White Claw.
Who was the bartender there? Was that the fellow?
It was
with the voice?
Yeah. Yes. Was it him?
I think so.
Had the radio voice?
Yeah.
Yeah, we collected that. That was fun.
Yeah, you have an intro or a transition from him.
And we like Waltz.
Yes.
It has the swimmer that's there. It's got carvings out front. It's very eclectic.
They've got bicycle, or not bicycle, but
motorcycle parking out front. They have a new deck out front, patio. So we like that in McKenna.
They continue to get better
and it's better. Next to, is that Stewart's Meats?
Yep.
It's next door. So if you need beef jerky and a drink, that's the place to go, McKenna, Washington. From there, we headed into Tenino to the Landmark, which is haunted. Another one that we've done a story on where they've seen figures move in and out throughout the bar. And they have a trap door downstairs.
And
haunted
shared a corn dog.
We did share a corn dog.
That was a good corn
dog. Keith just
there's
took bites.
something doesn't sound right about that.
Yeah, Keith wasn't there.
And from there, we headed and landed in Bakota, Washington. That was a little side road.
Blip in the
over
road.
the railroad tracks. Ended up at Joe's Place. They are the oldest place in Washington that's had Olympia beer on tap.
Oli beer, yeah.
For like 100 years.
Day one on.
Unbelievable. Really cool old place. Sits by itself near the railroad tracks. They do a great car show. Our friend Chrissy works there.
Sleepy little town.
And a big-time Halloween party.
Yeah, they've got that. And so it was great to see them. Our stickers up on their reach-in. They have had a little bit of activity in there from the original owner. We got a photo. That's on our Facebook page with Chrissy out there, out front. Love that place.
And we weren't done yet.
No, we ended up at the Olympic Club of McMiniman's property in Centralia, where we met up.
You've been there once or twice before.
I've been there many times. Well, my mother was at a retirement home.
A place for mom.
Place for mom in that area. And so we go visit. We'd spend our 10 minutes with her. and then head over to no, I'm kidding. 12, 13 minutes. And then head over to McMiniman's, get over.
The truth comes out.
Have a drink, and we got to know some of the people there. That place has been investigated by paranormal, true investigators, and is known to be haunted. Another great spot. We did a podcast on that. But there, we met up with Sister Gay, and this is a nod to my...
Is she a nun?
Yeah, nod to my
She's a nun?
New Catholic...
You're not even listening to me.
Roots. I am. That's why I said Sister Gay. So nice of her to come out of her shell, her habit. And she sat down with us and shared her personal Sasquatch story, which, by the way, was featured on a TV show at the time that it happened, called Bigfoot Experiences Truth or Dare. I just made that name up. I can't.
That's a good show. I do remember that vaguely.
But they flew in. I think it was called Unnatural Encounters, something like that. And they filmed
with
it.
With a taint of the paranormal?
Yeah. Not at a truck stop.
Right. The stain of the paranormal. So why don't we take a minute, because this is what this podcast is about, and listen to Sister Gay's.
But I got to say, your Sister Gay is sweet, unlike you and Bobby, who are kind of both.
She's bossy.
No, she's not. She's very sweet.
Here's her story. She saw a Sasquatch in your hometown, Mark Graham. So here's Gay. Okay, so I'm sitting with Gay.
Hi.
And you have had a Sasquatch experience in your life, amongst other things.
Right.
And so we're here at the Olympic Club in Centralia, Washington, collecting this terrific Sasquatch story that you saw face to face, correct?
I did.
All right, so let's just start at the beginning. What'd you see? What happened?
Okay, this was in October 2000, and I was farm sitting for my friend who lived out in
Graham, Washington.
Right, and she had 80 acres.
By the way, that's where Mark is from, where he grew up.
Oh, I didn't know that. Awesome. So, I was driving out the Capalson Highway, and I turned off onto the lane where she lives, and there's a church out there. People live there, and there's dormitories and things, and there was a man walking. It was almost dark. There was a man walking alongside the road, and I turned and waved at him.
Did he wave back?
Yep.
Okay.
He was wearing a suit. They're very formal. And when I turned around, I saw this big figure coming toward me in my headlights. It was coming from my right and going diagonally across the front of my car and into the yard beside me. And I thought it was my mind was flipping like flashcards. I was trying to identify it. I thought at first it was a bear, but it was striding upright and it had shoulders. So I followed it.
Now, was your first thought, well, here we go. I'm on my own. It could be a date. Date possibility.
Well, back then, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That'd be good. It did have nice muscles. I remember that part. So I'm turning around. There's speed bumps there. I'm going very slow. I'm turning around. I'm following it with my eyes, and I can see the yard light shining on his back, and I can see hair, and I can see the sheen of his muscles through the hair. So it was like a man with...
It wasn't fur, it was hair.
It was hair, exactly, because you could see through it. And I could see the bulging muscles. I could also tell that he was not wearing any clothing, because the man that I waved to, you could see the lines of his clothing, where his shirt was, and this person had none of that delineation. But I just kept driving. I don't know why I didn't stop. I'm going about 20. And I just kept driving. I went down the end of that road, and I turned and got out at the gate there, and I had to unlock it, and I was afraid to get out of the car. And then the dogs came out to meet me, and they were fine. So I got out of the car and unlocked the gate and went in. Turned on all the floodlights.
But there was something, when the first time you ever told me that story, there was something about jumping over the fence?
I'm not sure he jumped over the fence, but there was a fence there. It was kind of a low cyclone fence.
But how did he get out?
Well, there were openings because there were driveways.
Okay.
Yeah, because I went back later to look to try to figure exactly where that was. But I think he probably went into one of those driveway openings and then across the lawn. So I went into the house. I turned on all the floodlights. I finally went to bed, tried to take a hot tub in her little jacuzzi, and the window was bare there, and I got the creeps, and I jumped out of the tub.
And that was it. It scared you. But this was a profound experience. Is that
Well,
true?
it was life-changing, I thought, at the time. I went back to work, and I looked up the BFRO website, Bigfoot
Yeah.
Research Organization, and I entered my story in there, and I found a whole lot of other ones. And the following weekend, when I was out there, I was awakened by a scream, a loud scream, and I had the opportunity to talk to her neighbor, and he'd heard the same scream. They thought something was inside their yard, right outside their bedroom. It was so loud. But they have an 8-foot fence, a big, tall fence.
Now, Gay, were you drinking again all morning?
I
for
always
work?
drink. I always drink, but I wasn't drinking when I was driving.
Just right out of rehab.
Okay, leave her alone. Because this was a real experience. And not only that, but you got contacted by a television show, didn't you?
I did, yeah. A year or two later, they contacted me, and I think it was through Jeff Meldrum, who was the head of BFRO, and I went down to Cougar and did a little interview, and they did kind of a reenactment of it. So it was really interesting. They had some other stories on the same show, and yeah. And I actually decided to move down here to Lewis County because I thought I might see another one. And it hasn't happened. I've seen lots of other wildlife, but not a Bigfoot since I moved here. And this is Bigfoot country, you know. I should have seen it.
You're right. So there you go. So you've seen one?
I've seen one.
And you know they're real.
Absolutely.
And I have been listening to a thing called Bigfoot Chronicles. By the way, you should, where this guy collects all these great Bigfoot stories. And if you're okay with it, I'm going to share your story with him.
That'd be great. Sure.
All right. Well, thank you, Gay.
You're welcome.
All right.
Good to see you.
You know what? I truly believe Gay because, once again, she is a stalwart of your family for sure.
She's a better person than probably the rest of us.
Well,
I don't think there's any question. I don't know why the hesitation in your voice.
Well, the thing is, like me, she's sensitive to the paranormal, and she got to see something that, well, it scared the hell out of her, but it also was one of the big moments of her life.
Well,
that and the UFO she saw.
And unlike you and your brother, I don't think she has a drinking problem.
Why are you bringing that up? You said you wouldn't bring that up. Okay, so back to Five Heights. Remember we talked about the Five Heights incident?
Mm-hmm.
Gay grew up on Five Heights, home of the incident, as did I.
Yet another connection.
And I.
As did Lizard. As did you, Pendominono.
Domino, yes.
Bobby Chong, who just left, and you, Scout, live on Five Heights.
Yeah, I moved into the haunted area.
But here's the deal. You grew up in Graham. And where did Gay see that Bigfoot?
In Graham.
Right?
And I must confess, as a sixth grader, spent the night at a friend's house, Chris. We'll just name him Chris. He lived in the woods. We went out in the woods dicking around 10 o'clock at night.
You snuck out?
Wait. You and Chris dicking around? Is this a whole nother episode?
Well, Tim was with us, too.
Tell us?
Is this a confession?
I thought the new Catholic was the person to confess to.
Well, I'll take
we
it.
heard this noise, and we...
Ouch!
That's big. And we went running.
You guys are so noisy. What kind of noise did you hear in the woods?
Well, kind of that ouch and whoa, that's huge. That's what I yelled. But no, the three of us, Chris, Tim, and I, bolted back to the house, and we could not help but think of Sasquatch because it was like 1979, 80-ish.
What did you hear, though?
Just some growling, grunting, growling.
Did it huff? They huff. They're huffers.
Well, I did not know that at the time.
Wow.
Otherwise, we probably would have joined them.
But you had a little experience that unsettled you.
Yeah, we went back and wake up in the morning, and Tim had peed the bed. He was a bed peer.
Well, the thing is,
that was my take home. Like that was the problem.
All right, so
things have been changed.
So, and then they all went to therapy.
It's 3 words. I have 3 words for you: therapy.
So yeah, Graham is. It's not the first I've heard from paranormal Sasquatch-ish stories from Graham.
Now, if you've been following our podcast,
and we know you have,
and all 11 of you have, Mark has never admitted to having something that unsettled him or made him think there could be something more to the world. And I just want to thank you for growing a little here.
Yeah, well, I've never bought into it. I just that night it was scary.
Just
No,
remember,
just-
it's not a ghost story. It's a Sasquatch story.
It was probably a rabbit.
It's a cryptid. So here's the deal. This is all connected. It's the interweb world, the universe, the multiverse that we live in. It's all connected, and it's happening right here,
You've
right
used
now.
the Omniverse on an earlier.
I have. Well,
episode.
it's something that's always there.
Do you have any other corroborations
Okay,
for Five Heights?
there's another resident of Five Heights.
Oh, here we go.
He grew up actually in the Milton Edgewood area, but Dr. Don shares what happened to him just a few years ago, thus completing the loop on the spiritual area that we're connected to, this Five Heights thing that's happening. I just don't really get it.
The Squatch?
Right, it's squatchy. But here's Don's story. Let's hear what he has to say. Well, hey, I'm with Dr. Don Finlayson, who is a resident here on Five Heights. And this is an area that, as we opened the show with, was the Bigfoot Five Heights incident, which I think you remember. You were around back in those days,
I remember
right?
it. Yep.
And what do you remember?
So we'll see. That was about, 1972, I think it was?
Right around there, yeah.
And so
Right
I
down
probably,
the street from my
I
house.
was probably about 14 or 15. I lived over in Milton, so I didn't know the area that well because I was only, I couldn't get over here on my bike very often. But I remember going to the movie with my parents at the Fife Drive-In. It was called
behind
Bigfoot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bigfoot Man or Beast was the movie.
And they talked about the Five Heights incident.
Yeah, it was in the movie. They had a whole movie on all these different Bigfoot incidences, and the Five Heights incident was in it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And now we live up here. And when it happened, I was a sophomore in high school, so you must have been in seventh
I was
or
one.
eighth grade. Or
No, I was 1 year.
So you were a junior.
Yeah, yeah.
Or freshman.
Freshman, yeah.
And
yeah.
And you were intrigued by it even back then. 'Cause
Yeah.
you saw the movie
My
again
parents
just
took me to the
couple
movie.
of years ago, right?
My dad took us, but he used to tell us the whole time what a bunch of bull crap it was. But I remember being really enthralled, and since it happened, and actually where it happened was at the end of a road up here, where my brother's good friend, I won't say his name, but he lived up at the end of that road. So, it was kind of scary because we drove by here all the time, of course, and my brother's friend lived right at the end of the road because it was really a big, scary thing back then.
It was. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
The national news was here.
Yeah.
The boys that experienced and saw the Bigfoot were interviewed.
Yeah, they were from Fife, too, from Fife High School. Yeah,
they were. And there was also talk about it being a hoax.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, the thing is, as you dig more into the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomena, you hear more and more stories and more people that have seen them face up and say, it's real.
Right.
They're there.
A lot of really credible people have given reports.
And so this hill that we live on up here, overlooking the Tacoma and Commencement Bay and all that area, was quite forested. It was semi-rural.
Yep.
Hardly
any traffic at all.
County, yeah. County road, lots of woods. So second growth had been forested back in the early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. But the trees are big, lots of forest, and it's over water, dense, and they can't build on the slopes on the hill because it goes up about 520 feet.
Yeah.
But that was years ago, right?
Yeah.
40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And
it was.
Not long ago, though, something happened to you.
So I walked my dog. I was telling you the story before, and you asked me to talk about this, and I said, sure, no problem. I have a chocolate lab, Daisy, and, I walk her pretty much every day up and down the streets around here. And I always go the same way every time. I always, where I live, I always go out of my street, take a left and go down a couple dead-end roads that equal about 2 miles. A mile and a half I do one way, and about 2 miles I would do the other way. And I don't know why it was, but one night I just decided to take a left and not go the same route and go around, the streets I'm talking about, but go around a different way.
It's a 2-lane country road that winds around a neighborhood with forest houses and then woods and then houses. Right.
That's the thing, is that there's the houses are sporadic here. I mean, we had houses in a row in some areas, but there's other areas where there's several hundred yards, where it's just pure forested and you can't even see past, maybe 20 feet into the forest, and it'll go back five acres or whatever. So I decided one evening to walk my dog, and it was getting kind of late, and it was getting kind of dark. And I don't really like to walk on those streets in the dark because sometimes the cars go pretty fast there. So I take a different route than I have had in several months. And I'm around this corner, and I'm in one of those spots that you were talking about where there's a house, and then there's about a couple hundred yards of forest.
That was a 5 acre plot.
Yeah, it was about 5 acres, and it's dense, and it's starting to get dark. And I've walked my dog, for a couple of years straight. My dog's not skittish. She just, is a lab, tongue hanging out, tail wagging. And the first thing I noticed was when I get to this part, and it's getting kind of dark, so it's kind of spooky for both of us. But I walked her in the dark before, so it wasn't that. But my dog starts, before we hear anything, my dog starts to kind of like, you ever seen a horse when there's a rider on a horse and the horse gets kind of goosey and they start walking sideways and jumping around? My dog was doing the same thing. And her name's Daisy, and I kept telling Daisy to just settle down. What's going on? She's pulling on the leash and dancing sideways and kept looking around, and she was scared. She was afraid of something. And just right after she started doing this weird little dance, and it was, something that was really different than I'm used to her doing. I knew something was up. I hear in that forested area, there's, probably I would say it was way back there, and you can't see, like I said, it's so dense you can't see past.
Well, on top of it was dusk, right?
Oh, yeah, it was dusk. Yeah. And anybody in the right mind, that's part of the story, wouldn't want to be back there. And first of all, they wouldn't even know I was coming because I didn't go that way. So, and plus, how would they even know what some of the things that happened that I would even know that, say, a quote-unquote Bigfoot or Sasquatch would do, right? So that everything wasn't, it added up to like, this could be real. So anyway, what happened was my dog starts getting all weird and skittish, and I hear a double clunk, clunk, something like somebody took a wooden baseball bat and beat it against a tree, like 2 good thumps, and it was back quite a ways. And I know that forested area goes all the way back down, I believe back down the side of the hill again, because there's nothing built behind it.
Down into the,
so the
tide flats and the waterways.
Yeah, it goes all the way down. So I hear a donk, donk, and wasn't even, count to 5 or something. And 2 projectiles come flying out of there. And it was dark enough I couldn't tell if it was an apple or a rock or what, but there's no apple trees in there, right? So it had to be like a rock or something, but something you could hear it hitting leaves, and then they bounced on the road. And of course that freaked my dog out even worse. She couldn't see it. She's spinning around, and we're both, scared. We're petrified. And first thing I thought was exactly what I'd seen on some of those shows, those shows that they talk about, the tree knocks and projectiles, right? So, the hair on the back of my neck was standing up, and my dog's hair was standing up, and we both just turned and sprinted as far as we could. Of course, I'm 62 now. I was probably 58. I think I sprinted about 20 yards.
Young man.
Yeah, I was a young guy, and I sprinted about 40 yards, I think. And then I was out of breath, and we were just walking as fast as we could, but we're getting out of there. So I went home and told my wife, and she told me I was crazy.
Well, of course, yeah. We get that same.
And that's the story.
I get the continued crazy. He's going to go out in the garage and record crazy.
Right, yeah, and bring his neighbor buddy over and talk about what he did.
But you've made a little bit of a study about this, and you are pretty interested in it, and you think you crossed the path of something.
I think something weird happened.
There was definitely something in those woods. There was definitely a tree knock, and there were rocks being thrown out a long way.
And so, not knowing whether I believe in Bigfoot or not, I tried to think it away, thinking, okay, it was just someone playing a trick or a prank, right? But like I said, nobody knew that I was going to take a different route. And nobody knew I was walking I don't think anybody in the hill knows I walk my dog, and I do it at different times anyway. And I heard something that was in the forest that I'm telling you, nobody in their right mind would be, even if they knew I was going to be walking that way and coming by and was going to scare me. They first of all wouldn't know that I even knew those 2 things happened, or supposedly happened with Bigfoot, right? And they wouldn't have known that I would have known that. And who would want to be in there just waiting for some guy like me to walk by to tap on a tree, which can mean nothing to my wife. She didn't even know that. When I told her that, I said, I watched some of these shows on Discovery, and she's like, whatever. They don't beat on trees. Well, she would have known that if she was walking the dog, you know. And then it was at night, and then, it's just the whole thing was just kind of set up to where it's like something happened. I don't know what it was, but it was just the thing. It didn't add up.
Has a history.
Yeah, exactly.
True
right.
or not,
no,
hoax or not, it was a big deal on national news. Yeah. and you've confirmed something else happened.
That's right.
We don't know what it was, but this is only about a third of a mile from my house.
Yeah, probably there.
Where
yeah,
we're
down
recording
the road.
this,
Yeah, exactly. And about a third from mine. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, not even
I think we're about a mile apart. Yeah. So.
Well, you're a man of science. What do you think these things are?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I talk to hunter friends. I'm not a hunter. That they say they probably would have found them if they were real. But again, I don't want to get too far out, too conspiracy, weird thinking. But I've heard other research that they actually find somebody must be mowing.
Wow.
Anyway, I find somebody mowing your lawn.
No, they can't be.
Yeah. So
maybe they are because it's 4th of July weekend.
That's right, getting ready.
They are going to come.
That's right.
They're coming a day early.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry about the noise out there.
So I read somewhere like there was a research thing or a paper or an article that somebody has done a graph where every time there's a whole bunch of Sasquatch or Bigfoot sightings, there's also the same spike that goes together of UFO sightings. So, and then some people believe in the theory that maybe that's why they're not seen, because if they're aliens or whatever, of course they would know how to
They
get
drop
away.
them off to play for a while.
Yeah,
right?
then
also
they get
think
away.
they might be interdimensional. That's
Yeah,
the
exactly.
other
Exactly.
theory, is that they
Yeah.
move through and come in and take off, and that's why we haven't found them. But there's also conversations about the fact that you don't find carcasses of bears and
That's true. Yeah.
other things.
In fact, I have a couple hunters that have talked about that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah. They just go off to die somewhere, and I think they get eaten up. But, I don't know if I believe or not. That really did happen to me, and it really is the same things. And the other things didn't add up. Like I said, they wouldn't have known I was coming and all that stuff. And, I'm an open-minded guy. It's like, why couldn't there be? I think the first time they saw a gorilla, they didn't.
that long ago.
Yeah, they figured out, well, hey, there's no gorillas until they saw one, right? So who knows?
Yeah.
It happened, and
well, very
it was,
cool.
It was fun.
And Dr. Don, thank you so
betcha.
much for
You're welcome.
taking the time to do this and tell your story.
Yeah,
and
ruining
if
my
you have
credibility.
Any issues, where do they go?
Exactly. They what?
Wait, somebody has a little back issue.
Oh, exactly.
Where do they go?
You go to Browns Point Chiropractic Center, Dr. Sally and Dr. Don.
That's right. Just go to brownspoint.chiropractic.com.
That's right.
Thanks, Don.
You betcha. Thanks, Mark.
Well, that was, once again, I don't think there's any reason for Dr. Don to make up anything. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, but I've never heard that from Dr. Don.
Well, I heard it once at a party, and I put it in a folder in my brain so that we're doing this podcast. I called him.
And he answered the call.
He did. It took a little bit because he was a little uncomfortable telling that story, especially with the size of practice that he has.
He's a busy
and people that are out there. But we really appreciate that he told it. And the thing is, it pulls it all back again to this Five Heights thing. This is a
this is almost a full circle episode.
Well, I mean, this and Graham and
your
story was so impressive.
Well, it's one of the reasons why I moved out of this neighborhood.
Yeah, and look what it got you. You need a new cell phone. You're leaving it. Anyway, but Keith moved into it. He lives on the hill. We can look over and see the hill he moved on. And I haven't heard a single Edgewood, Milton, Sumner Bigfoot story, but there's one about Five Heights, and there's one about Graham.
I'm
you grew
reasonably
up on Five
sure
Heights.
it's not legal in Edgewood.
The Edgewood mayor cleans my windows.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's got a thriving window company. They clean windows. So just a quick shout out to him.
Good to know.
If you need his number, call me at 1-800-CLEAN-WINDOWS. He's a good guy. So thank you, Don. Well, here's another thing. We were in Nashville, Tennessee, if you remember, this spring. We collected some great stories, ghost stories and that sort of thing. We also collected a Bigfoot story from a chef, Chris, at the Chef and I. And we actually used it on a Nashville-based podcast that we did. But since he grew up here in the Northwest, he was cooking down there, I thought it would be kind of great to put Chris's story back in here. It would fit right in.
Good fit.
And
how ironic is that Chris in Nashville grew up in Linwood, which is about, 40, 50 miles from here?
Yeah, and saw Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And that we would be doing a Bigfoot podcast, Harry Riders. So listen, before we get on there, if you have interest in Bigfoot, and you should, because it is a hot topic right now.
Shit's real.
It's real. If you listen to Bigfoot Chronicles, which is a great podcast where people share their experiences with Bigfoot, actually seeing them, you listen to some of these guys and you can't believe that they're not telling the truth.
Well, I've had my wife's foot up my ass. That's
multiple times.
Hurts.
Yeah, she has small feet. So anyway, that was uncomfortable.
I won't comment on Mark's ass.
Thank you, Keith.
If you listen to that, you'll get some great stories, and you'll go, these people believe what they saw, and some of them are straight up, face to face, and it's pretty good. And also Astonishing Legends, which is a hugely popular podcast, even more popular than ours.
Or there's that Chasing Bigfoot on Scooters podcast.
Right. We're doing that today. So they broke down the Patterson Gimlin film, which is the original one from the 60s, where they shoot Patty walking across the stream and up there. It's quite a deep dive. I believe it's about 6 hours of research and peeling back the onion on that. Take a listen. I'll tell you what, after you do, you may think to yourself, my gosh, this really could be real. So there you go. Before I keep going down this line, let's listen to Chris's story from Nashville, Tennessee about Linwood, Washington.
So yeah, as a kid, I jumped up out of bed, looked out my back window, and Bigfoot sprinted across my yard and jumped the back fence on a full stride.
What did you see? What did you see?
I saw the Bigfoot, man. I heard a rattling. Hairy dude, dark brown to blackish, tall, really tall legs, because he hopped that fence like it was nothing. It wasn't a really tall fence, but it was tall enough that no human could have done that. Right over it. Kept on going into the woods. It was in Linwood, Washington, around 65th Place West. We used to have a big forest around it until they developed it. And he came out of the forest and it went through the neighborhood and into the other side of the forest.
Thanks, Chris.
You got it, baby.
You know what I love about that story?
All of it.
Well, yes. But Chef Chris said, this hairy dude.
That could describe a lot of people.
Not a hairy rider. He's a hairy rider. No, this hairy dude jumps. Anyway, he's running across. I like that story. I thought it was great that we were, out of town in Nashville. This guy we met. He cooked us a beautiful dinner and then told us that story.
Yeah, I do too. He was a good dude.
Yeah, but he wasn't a hairy dude. You don't want that while you're cooking. Okay, so that's going to wrap up our Harry Ryder Squatchy episode. We'll be back again soon with our very cool ride to Seattle, where we met up and interviewed Karen, one of the owners of Kells, and two great bartenders at Merchants Cafe in Pioneer Square in Tacoma who shared very personal, haunting experiences. And thanks to you, our small but loyal listeners.
Small my ass.
Number one in the world.
For listening, that's right. Weeknights for our original music, our intrepid writing team of podcasters.
And your fact checker that puts out the Merchants Cafe is in Seattle, not Tacoma.
Oh, did I say Tacoma?
Yes, you did.
Pioneer Square
Merchants,
in Tacoma.
Yeah, Pioneer Square in Seattle. Oh, well, these things happen. You guys are pouring me fresh squeezed drinks. And I'd like to thank the universe for keeping things interesting. Until then, be safe out there, head on a swivel, keep the rubber side down, and ride, baby. Ride.